And welcome inside the Robert J. Collins Arena for another edition of Brookdale basketball tonight on BTV. Alongside my broadcast partner Brian Goudsward, I am Tim Califamo. Brookdale takes on Cumberland County tonight. The Dukes trying to vie for a spot in the postseason along with Brookdale. Both these two teams above 500 in conference play, but Brookdale has dropped 4 of the last 6 games. Cumberland is coming off of a very nice win against Passaic on Saturday, Brian, but a must-win for Cumberland on the road, and for Brookdale, they've got to get back to their winning ways.
Yeah, should be a very interesting game. These two teams very much evenly matched. The first time they met a couple months ago, it was just a 2-point decision that Brookdale lost. So you have to expect another close game here today and hope for Brookdale's sake that being back home.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, Brookdale comes off of 7 straight road games. Their last game here at home was on January 15th, so it's been a while. That may not seem like a very long time, but in basketball standards, that is a very long time to be on the road, and Brookdale definitely has struggled the last couple of weeks. They're trying to get back to their winning ways tonight against Cumberland. The Dukes, as I mentioned earlier, above 500 overall. They are 15-8, 12-5 in conference play. Brookdale 12-9, 10-7 in the Region 19 standings. You see Cumberland getting undressed, and you also see a good shot of Darren Stalling in his second season as head coach of the Cumberland County Dukes. Took this team all the way to the Region 19 semifinals last year. Trying to continue to lead this team to some success, and they have certainly a lot of talent on their side of the floor. The starting 5 will start with the Cumberland County Dukes. They'll start with Jonathon Thomas, Max Cruz, Phil Cicero, Alfonso Smith, and Charles Sapp, whereas the Jersey Blues, as they are continuing to be introduced by public address announcer Dave Tompkins, it'll be Beon Wilson, Jelani Carter, Dave Callaway, Tyler Hawkins, and Jeremiah Flurant getting the start in the starting lineup tonight. Coach Chizak there in the white dress shirt, along with some of his other assistants, told me pregame the team the last couple of weeks he feels has lost their identity. So they're trying to regain their identity tonight in a must-win against Cumberland on their home floor.
Yeah, and I talked with Coach Chizak before the game and asked him about the long stretch, playing 7 games in a row on the road. He used one word to describe that experience: torture. So needless to say, he's happy to be back at home, and Brookdale always plays much better here in front of their home fans at the Collins Arena.
Yeah, I mentioned dropping 4 of the last 6 games, 2 in a row. They lost on Saturday to Northampton, 99-75. That's the most points that Brookdale has given up all season on defense, so definitely room for improvement. And they need a strong start to be able to stick with the Dukes this evening. Our officials on the floor tonight: Dick Hecker, Joe Brescia, and Ed Gorski. Cumberland again in the yellow uniforms, Brookdale in the home whites. It's Beon Wilson and Alfonso Smith at midcourt, and we are underway here in the Collins Arena. We're glad you're joining us here on Brookdale TV tonight. Thomas being guarded by Tyler Hawkins. Max Cruz and a travel. So a quick turnover here for Cumberland, not even 17 seconds into the first half. And Brookdale will now try to go to work here on offense. There's Jelani Carter, who's been struggling from behind the three-point line the last couple of games. Callaway, who also got a start in the starting rotation this evening. Hawkins, a fadeaway 2, left it short.
Yeah, there's been a lot of mixing and matching for Brookdale with the starting lineup because they have so many guys. You look across that bench, how many bodies there are, and it's trying to find that right combination that works.
Cicero straight on 3. That one's off the mark, and Fluant grabs the rebound. Wilson at the foul line. Now back out to Hawkins. Extra pass to Flurant in the corner. That's an air ball. And a long rebound to Alfonso Smith. Not a very good start for either club so far. Here's Cicero. Throws it up there. Rebound Carter. Wilson into the paint. Now back out Callaway. He'll try a 3. That one's off the rim.
And you mentioned the slow start by both teams as we're still looking for the first points in the game, and Brookdale has just struggled from behind the three-point line all season long.
And Cruz throws it away, so another turnover for Cumberland. And you mentioned earlier, Brian, these are two teams that met earlier this season down in Vineland, New Jersey at Cumberland. Dukes were able to win that game 75-73. It was a close game. Brookdale actually had a lead with about a minute to go in that matchup and then had 3 straight turnovers down the stretch, giving the game to Cumberland. Carter nearly had it stripped and threw it away.
Speaking of Brookdale players who are trying to find themselves, Jelani Carter is one. As you see him turn it over there, and he's just been in a major shooting slump. 6 for his last 45 from behind the line. He was, guys, so instrumental to Brookdale's success earlier on.
In fact, he was actually knocking down a good number of threes early on this season, Brian, so he's been in the slump from behind the arc for sure. Another turnover for the Dukes. Brookdale in transition, still looking for their first points, and Wilson can't get it to drop, and another rebound to Smith. Here's Cruz. 2 shots upcoming for Max Cruz from the foul line, as it looks like this will be the first foul on Dave Callaway. So Max Cruz, the 6'1" freshman from Clayton, New Jersey, averages around 12 points a game, shooting 67% from the line this year. Finally gets the first points of the first half for either team. And Cumberland is a team that can put up a lot of points. They average around 82 a game. Very strong offensively as Cruz makes them both from the line. Dukes in a 2-3 zone. Carter from behind the arc into Hawkins. Now here's Flurant. Brookdale really not getting anybody inside of the paint. Callaway thought about another 3. Carter, a long NBA range 3, rattles out. In transition, here comes Thomas. Try to dump it into Smith. It's taken away by Hawkins. Wilson 1-on-2. Brookdale just coming up empty, as the iron has been very unkind to the Jersey Blues. A 3 from the corner for Thomas, and Cumberland now leads 5-0. Carter, and that's a travel.
This has been a very discouraging start for Brookdale. Not only have they yet to crack the scoreboard, but turning the ball over and just unforced errors that we've seen the first 3.5 minutes or so.
Brookdale does average 19 turnovers a game, and while Cumberland has had multiple turnovers in these opening couple of minutes, at least they've been able to get on the scoreboard. Cicero. Now to Smith. Jumper is good. And now that's a 7-0 lead for Cumberland. Brookdale still looking for their first points here in this first half. Flurant has it blocked. Up ahead to Smith. What a move. Alfonso Smith, the 2-hand throwdown.
I'm a little surprised Brookdale is yet to take a timeout, but Paul Chizek is about to make a host of changes with about 4 Jersey Blues in front of the scorer's table, make it a 5th.
Yeah, that team rotation can't come quick enough. Hawkins on the drive draws the foul, and he will shoot 2.
And it was very much up and down results for Brookdale during that long stretch of road games. They've lost their last 2, but it started on a high note. Overall 3-4 in the 7 games, but just been playing inconsistent basketball of late, and hence the up and down results.
So Hawkins can't hit the first one from the line. The foul was on Charles Sapp, and as you mentioned, Brian, basically a whole nother team checks onto the floor for Brookdale. DeAndre Smith, Adam Kukai, Demir Fitch, and Alan Ozoji. on the floor now, as Hawkins misses both from the line. Cumberland leads by 9. Smith. Ball being worked around, going baseline is Thomas off the window. He's fouled. It's the second team foul on the Jersey Blues, and this foul is on Alan Ozoji. That's his first. So Jonathon Thomas, one of the starting 5, has scored double figures in 17 games this year for Cumberland. It's the first of a 2-shot foul. Tyler Hawkins will check out of the game. Tyrese Bryant, the 6-foot freshman from Matawan, will check in for Brookdale. And Thomas gives Cumberland an 11-0 lead.
I'll tell you, in all the games we've ever done, I don't think we've ever seen Brookdale start in an 11-0 hole like this.
Goes without saying, Brookdale definitely needs a bucket. Ozoji nearly put it on the floor. Smith. Bryant with a ball fake. Ozoji again. A tough shot finally goes, and Brookdale's on the board.
And finally, something for the Brookdale fans to cheer about. And Ozoji, the bright spot in the last game, even though it was a blowout loss, he had a 20-10 game scoring and rebounding.
And keep in mind, Ozoji is nursing a foot injury. Cruz nearly had it poked away by Smith. Shot clock at 10. Thrown away. Fitch with the steal. Fitch to the rim, left it short. Out of bounds, last touch. It'll go back to Cumberland.
Yeah, and that's just tough when you have a clear path to the basket in transition and can't finish off those easy ones.
Charles Sapp comes out of the game for Cumberland. And checking out of the floor in place of him is Nazir Warren. Thomas a 3. Rebound Bryant. DeAndre Smith trying to dribble his way out of traffic. Adam Kukai, who's been dangerous from behind the three-point line, but has been quiet the last couple of games. Remember, he missed 3 at the beginning of the month of January, and another turnover. Cicero running the length of the floor and lays it in off the window. Dave Callaway and Tyler Hawkins check back into the game for Brookdale as Demir Fitch and Smith come out. So Brookdale trying to keep as many fresh bodies on the floor as possible and substituting quite a bit. The problem is, Brian, they're just not getting any points.
Yeah, just yet to find any kind of a rhythm and defensively giving up too many points in transition.
Opportunity here, Hawkins all the way to the rim and is able to drop it in the paint. 13-4, Cumberland in front by 9. Smith one-on-one with Ozoji. Now here's Warren. Thomas, who hit that 3 earlier in the game. Goes right at Hawkins. The hook shot is good over Tyler Hawkins. What a move by Jonathon Thomas. Ozoji, the floater. Rims out. Offensive rebound by Hawkins, and he's fouled.
And Brookdale really needs Hawkins to step up. He has taken the reins of being the team's leading scorer since being inserted as part of the roster, and coming off, for his standards, a pretty slow game with 11 points, but Brookdale needs him to be on his A game.
Tyler Hawkins' first attempt from the line is good. The foul was on Nazir Warren. That's his first. Team foul number 2 on the Dukes. And this has historically been an area that Tyler Hawkins has struggled with. Not the greatest foul shooter in the world, but he makes both of them. Desperate points, desperately needed points for Brookdale. They trail 15-6. Cicero being guarded very tightly by Bryant. Now Cicero to the rim. There may have been some contact, no call. Callaway scoops it up and is blocked at the other end. Kukai, though, the offensive rebound. What a hustle play by Alfonso Smith to get back on defense. Brookdale's within 7.
Well, I'll tell you, awfully close to a goaltend. I actually thought that was going to be the call on the attempt by Callaway, but Brookdale able to cash in nonetheless.
Smith with the layup.
That was a beautiful spin move by Smith on that drive to the basket.
Hawkins is fouled. And that'll be the second foul on Nazir Warren. Team foul number 3. Adam Kukai checks out of the game, back on the floor, Beyond Wilson. And Cumberland is trying to sub somebody in, so that shot by Tyler Hawkins does not count as Warren comes out with those 2 fouls. In for him, Chanel Lotman. Shot clock at 23. Wilson tried to go right at Smith. It's knocked around and corralled by Cumberland. Cruz, a straight on 3. Rebound Ozoji. Cumberland's had a lot of open looks at the rim. Brookdale's not getting out and closing on their defenders, and at the moment, the Dukes have been able to capitalize, as this will be a foul here on, I believe, Cruz. We'll check the number. And it is on Max Cruz. That's his first. Hawkins able to get the jumper to go. And Brookdale within 7. But as I mentioned, a lot of uncontested shots for Cumberland so far. Brookdale just has not been able to close out on their defenders. And Lotman is fouled on his way to the rim. It'll stay on the floor, I believe. It's on Alan Ozoji. That's his second. So 2 fouls now on Ozoji. He has to come out of the game, and Adam Kukai replaces him on the floor. Cicero on the attack, went 1-on-4 and finally was able to get it to drop.
I think they're going to get a delay of game warning against Cicero after the basket there.
Phil Cicero, one of the sophomore stars for Cumberland, now 15 points away from 1,000 career points as a Cumberland County Duke. That was a storyline that Darren Stalling was talking to me about pre-game. Kukai dumped it off to Wilson downstairs and is able to adjust and put it in.
So Brookdale, after a very slow start, you're starting to see a little more crisp basketball of late. Now they're within 7. See this a lot with Brookdale, getting off to slow starts, but then they find their footing and then they become awfully dangerous.
Cruz trying to spin his way in on Bryant. The long 2 rattles out. There's Bryant. The runner doesn't get the bounce. I tell you what, so many shots for Brookdale tonight have just not gone in. However, Cumberland the last couple of possessions has started to struggle. They've allowed the Blues to get back in the game, and Kukai comes up with another turnover to Wilson with the left hand. It's the closest Brookdale has been in a while. They're within 5. Cicero, again being guarded tightly by Bryant. He dribbles it off his foot. Kukai with contact. Rebound Cicero. Cicero going all the way to the rim, right at Wilson, and lays it in.
Boy, Cicero is one skilled offensive player, and we've already seen on a couple of occasions his ability to take on multiple defenders and score in traffic.
He averages around 22 points a game. And as one of the sophomore leaders, Bryan inside does that one, doesn't go. And another rebound goes to Phil Cicero. In transition, here's Lopeman. Downstairs to Smith. 23-14, Duke's in front. Wilson nearly lost it out of bounds, and this will be kicked out of bounds by Thomas. Charles Sapp will sub into the game. Demir Fitch and Jelani Carter also back on the floor for Brookdale. It's been a fast-moving first half, Brian. I know that Brookdale hasn't shot the ball all that well, but we're not even 20 minutes overall time into this first half, and already we've seen a lot of fast-paced action more than halfway through this opening part of this matchup.
And not a lot of stoppages in the action, not a lot of fouls and free throws, and no timeouts.
That's what I was hinting at. I just couldn't get the words out quick enough. Wilson is able to tip it in right over the 6'10 Charles Sapp. And a foul here away from the ball. I think this is on Charles Sapp. That's his second. So there was some contact downstairs between Charles Sapp and Beon Wilson. And Sapp, after checking into the game just a moment ago, is back on the bench. It's the 5th team foul now for Cumberland. They're 2 away from being in the bonus. Carter along 2 if it goes, and Carter is able to knock it down.
Carter unable to help his three-point percentage thus far, but gets that one to drop, and maybe that'll give him some confidence going forward.
Brookdale back within 5. Here's Andre Green, who just checked into the game for the first time. Hawkins comes up with the turnover. Out to Smith, right wing 3. And DeAndre Smith puts Brookdale within 2. A nice shot for DeAndre Smith. Brookdale definitely needed that. And what was one time a double-digit lead now for Cumberland is a mere 2. And another whistle. This is going the other way.
Well, how about the run for the Jersey Blues from down 11-0 to within 2 as they've outscored Cumberland now, an extended run 21-12.
Alan Ozoji with 2 personal fouls checks back onto the floor as Beon Wilson subs out, and now we will have our first timeout of the first half called by head coach Darren Stalling. It's a 30-second timeout, so we'll keep it here on Brookdale TV. But Brian, as you were just alluding to, a very tight game that this has become here in the first half. It didn't start out that way. Brookdale really just struggled to get out of the gate. Cumberland at one point was up, I believe, 13-0, and for Brookdale to be able to chip away at that lead and close to within 2 is certainly very impressive.
Yeah, and you have to give Brookdale credit, and they're going back to what they do best, which is getting out in transition. You see that so often, that once they get started out on the break, get some baskets that way, that gets the whole offense ignited, and then you start to see the outside jumpers. Carter from just inside the line, and then DeAndre Smith making the big 3 to get Brookdale really close. So they're right in this one after it looked like it could be a long night.
You see Darren Stalling there on the bench. I mentioned him at the beginning of the game in that very sharply dressed blue suit. Coach Stalling always impeccably dressed on the sidelines. Trying to take this team back to the semifinals of the Region 19 tournament. Smith, another 3. This one's off the mark. And a long rebound goes to Lopeman. But something interesting about Cumberland, Brian, this will be one of 4 straight games that Cumberland will have to close out the year as Lopeman travels along the baseline.
Yeah, and I believe what you're alluding to is that they're all on the road.
Yep.
Their final 5 games, I noticed that too. So Brookdale off their long stretch on the road, and now it's Cumberland's turn. So that's certainly difficult anytime you go that length of time without playing at home.
Cumberland played their last home game on Saturday. It was a 13-point win over Passaic. Ozoji doesn't get it to fall in the paint. Saves it out of bounds to Green. Here's Cruz. Spun with the ball, but he lost it out of bounds. You get the sense, Brian, that Cumberland is just trying to do a little bit too much right now, and Brookdale definitely has put the pressure on the Dukes.
Brookdale now a chance to tie or take the lead for the first time.
Ozoji missed the dunk.
Brookdale bench was ready to get to their feet and explode.
Cicero put it on the floor. Scoops it back up. And Cumberland just trying to catch their breath right now. The lob into Smith, and this will be a foul on DeAndre Smith. Almost shoved Alfonso Smith out of bounds. That's the 4th team foul on Brookdale and the first on DeAndre Smith. So fresh 20 upcoming now for the Dukes. We talked about the road stretch that Cumberland has had as Fitch able to scoop up the ball. I'll get to that later on. Here comes Smith in transition. Hawkins the 3 for the lead. He got it. And Brookdale, their first lead of the game, and it comes with 5 minutes left here in the first half.
And now they got the 3-point stroke working. Previously it was DeAndre Smith, and that time Hawkins to give Brookdale the lead.
Cicero walked. Jonathon Thomas checks back into the game for the Dukes. Phil Cicero, somebody that can score a lot of points but has struggled in this first half. He really hasn't been able to get the ball too many times and hasn't gotten great looks at the rim. It's a credit to Brookdale's defense. Brookdale trying to add to their lead. Fitch, a nice 2. And the Jersey Blues are up by 3. Quite a run for sure to get back into the game. Cicero trying to do it all himself. He has it blocked out of bounds by Wilson.
I'll tell you, Brookdale has the shot blocking working. Ozoji has been the #1 guy in that department, but Wilson's gotten his share of emphatic rejections. As you see this one just keep rolling before it's eventually retrieved.
You know, Beyond Wilson, we just talked about him. He's one of the guards that plays up top for Brookdale, but he stands at 6'7", so he's not a small guard in the least bit. He can definitely get off his feet and block a couple of shots. He's done that so far tonight. Cicero over to Green, and another traveling violation on the Dukes, as Green was not ready for that pass. Darren Starling was trying to get one of his players subbed out. He'll have to wait to the next whistle, as it looks like Tyrone Chandler is waiting to come onto the floor for the first time. Smith, another 3, open, got it. It's a 6-point lead for Brookdale. They have come all the way back in this game, and they are now the ones that are shooting lights out from around the perimeter. Loatman takes Fitch one-on-one, threw it off the window, not even close. Smith to Carter, a 3. That one's off the back rim, kept alive here by Hawkins, but he was on the baseline.
Good effort by Hawkins, showing off some volleyball skills there as he was trying to gain control of it, but ruled to be on the end line.
And you know what? Something I was talking to Coach Chizek about pre-game, Brian. We were talking about his team, how they've dropped 4 of the last 6 games. He said the team just doesn't have the fire that they did early on in the season. From what we've seen, though, in this first half, they definitely have a lot of fire. We're seeing a lot of hustle plays. They're out hustling Cumberland on both sides of the floor.
Yeah, well, it started late as here's going to be an opportunity potentially in transition.
Smith with the layup and continues to pad Brookdale's lead. It's now 31-23.
But you mentioned it, and after a slow start, the fire has been there, and that's always good when your team responds to the head coach's message.
Cicero quiets the Brookdale crowd with a nice jumper. He's now 13 away from 1,000 career points, and the Dukes are within 6. And a timeout called by Coach Chizak with 16 seconds on the shot clock. It'll be a 30-second timeout, I believe, so we'll keep it here on Brookdale TV. Get a good look at the Cumberland County bench. I mentioned earlier a team 15-8 on the season, 12-5 in region play, led by that guy right there, Darren Stalling, who has done a great job, a very well-regarded recruit, or very well-regarded coach around the area, has brought in a lot of top-notch recruits to Cumberland. This is a team in Cumberland that started out winning 8 of their first 9 games, then went on a little bit of a slide, but have nonetheless been able to rebound, and as I mentioned, come off of that very nice win against Passaic on Saturday. For Coach Chizak in his 29th season, well, we've been talking about the storylines this evening. It has been a shaky end to the month of January, and Brookdale is coming off of their worst loss of the season on Saturday to Northampton. I mentioned at the beginning of the game that was a 99-75 loss. Alan Ozoji had 22 points, 12 rebounds in that game for Brookdale, but it was the most points Brookdale had given up all season. 4 on the shot clock here for Smith. Hawkins has to shoot. He puts it up at the buzzer, and he got it to go. Ice water in the veins for Tyler Hawkins, and Brookdale now has their largest lead of 9. Smith, the handoff to Thomas, and a foul. This will be on Tyler Hawkins, the 5th team foul, and for Tyler, that is his first. And Jonathon Thomas is back at the foul line again. Thomas is able to hit the first attempt. This is a team in Cumberland that shoots overall from the line 60%. Thomas, 1 of the 2. We'll go back to Brookdale, last touched by the Dukes. So under 2 minutes left here in the first half. If you're just joining us, Brookdale did not get off to a very strong start. They trailed at one point 13-0, but have been able to rebound and not only get back into the game, but take a pretty commanding lead and are in control at this point. See if Cumberland can try to mount a charge here late in the first half.
And Brookdale has gotten in this position by getting red hot from behind the three-point line, something that is a welcome sight for a team that has struggled mightily in that department throughout the year.
Warren playing with 2 fouls. Jumper from the foul line is good. Carter on the drive, kicks it out to Smith. From the foul line, DeAndre Smith off the rim, tip-up doesn't go. Fought for underneath by Fitch, he can't secure it, or does he? He's able to rip it out of the hands of Cicero. Carter at the rim, and that's a block. Count the bucket for Jelani Carter. As Alfonso Smith hit the deck hard and is still down on the floor. Smith obviously shaken up. Carter and Smith had a collision underneath the basket. As Coach Darren Starling will walk out to check on him. Athletic trainer Pete Fusco here at Brookdale will also check on Alfonso Smith. That's his second foul. And Alfonso Smith now is sat up. Looks like he'll be able to walk off under his own power. Just got a little shaken up. Coach Chizak using this as a pseudo timeout, so to speak, here in this first half. So just to reset again, the basket by Jelani Carter was good. The officials did count it. So Carter has one more foul shot upcoming from the line. As I mentioned, the second foul on Alfonso Smith. He's now on the bench, but appears to be all right after getting a little shaken up. And Jelani Carter, the 6'5 freshman from Hackensack, we talked about his struggles from behind the three-point line the last couple of games. He's been able to rebound. He has shot the ball better in this first half. Drains the shot from the line. It's now 37-28. With under a minute left here in the first half. Very fast-paced and quick-moving first half. Thomas throws it up there with the left hand. Cicero, the tough rebound, puts it up and in, and the foul. So Phil Cicero fighting hard underneath. And once again, Brian, he drew about 3 different defenders on him and was still not only able to get the rebound, but force that shot up and in. Foul was on Flurant. That's his first.
Yeah, we've seen that on a few occasions in this game, the ability to initiate the contact as he adds the one from the free throw line.
So Jelani Carter will check back onto the floor. Jeremiah Flurant, after picking up that first personal, is on the bench and probably will remain there for the duration of this first half. Cumberland dropping into a 2-3 zone. Fitch now to Smith. Shot clock at 13, put it on the deck. Scooped up by Cicero. 5-on-4 opportunity. Cicero draws all different types of contact, doesn't get the whistle, and it was last touched out of bounds by Cumberland. And a timeout will be taken by Paul Chizak. That's Brookdale's second timeout. It's another 30-second timeout with 17.1 seconds to play. Gives us an opportunity to remind you that coming up on Thursday, we'll have a doubleheader for you here on Brookdale Television. The men's and women's basketball teams will take on Rowan College at Gloucester County. The Roadrunners will be making their way into this building. 2 tough games, certainly for sure, not only for the Brookdale women, but also for the Brookdale men. The women are trying to finish out their season on a strong note. They will not have a winning record this year, but nonetheless, we'll try to build some momentum going into the upcoming season. And for Brookdale on the men's basketball side, they're just looking to pick up a couple more wins to secure their spot in the postseason. They're pretty much locked in at this point, but they still nonetheless have to keep winning basketball games in order to play for a Region 19 title.
And these are big games going against teams that they're jockeying for a position with in Cumberland. These teams came in at 7 and 8 respectively. Brookdale at number 8.
Shot clock is turned off here. Smith on the drive, threw it away. Cruz at the horn. Oh, didn't get it to go. Looked like a good shot, but Max Cruz not able to get the half-court prayer to drop in. It's Brookdale leading 37-31 at the end of one half of play. And as we welcome you back into our broadcast booth high atop here in the Collins Arena alongside Brian Goudsworth. I am Tim Catalfamo. Brian, this has been a really wacky first half. Brookdale did not start out the game all that well. It looked like Cumberland for a while was going to run away with this game, but Brookdale started making their shots. Cumberland made some mistakes, and surprisingly, Brookdale's got a 6-point lead right now.
Yeah, big turnaround for Brookdale, down 11-0. You think, oh, this just might not be their night, might be a long night of basketball after so many games on the road. Maybe this would be an adjustment game, but they flipped that script in a hurry. Got things going on the offensive end. You mentioned knocking down shots. Hawkins set the tone. He made a couple. You'd still like to see Jelani Carter break out of his shooting slump and get things going, but all things considered, Brookdale has to be very happy with where they're at right now.
Brookdale looking to try to get back in the win column. They lead by 6 over Cumberland County here on Brookdale TV. We'll come back for the second half live from the Collins Arena tonight next. Back here in the Collins Arena, getting ready to start the second half of action. Brookdale and Cumberland in a Region 19 matchup tonight. Brookdale leads 37-31 alongside Brian Goudsworth. I am Tim Catalfamo. A very interesting game this has been. A lot of high-energy tempo play in the first half. Brookdale trying to continue that here in the second. Cumberland searching for some answers after being up early on in the first half. Ozoji with 2 fouls on the first possession for Brookdale here in the second half. Can't get it to go, and it's picked up off the deck by Cicero, who goes right in the Callaway. What's it going to be? It's going to be a block on Dave Callaway, and they're going to count the basket after a long pause from the officials on the floor to figure out whether it was going to be a block or a charge. But it's the second on Callaway. Count the basket for Cicero. He's 1 away from completing a 3-point play. Wow. So an explosive way for Cumberland to start the second half. Knocked out of bounds by Smith, and actually Smith will pick up a foul. So that's the 3rd foul now on Alfonso Smith. Mentioned that Phil Cicero came into this game 17 points away from 1,000 career points as Beon Wilson is fouled inside the arc. You heard the slap all the way up here. That is the 3rd on Charles Sapp, who really hasn't played that much, Brian. He was in the starting rotation, but he has had nothing but foul trouble in this game. Carter, the 3. Nice box-out job by Smith, who's able to corral the rebound.
And Carter's struggles continue as he's unable to find the range from 3-point territory.
Sapp working it against Ozoji. Can't get the roll. Ozoji grabs it off of the rim and somehow is able to secure it with 2 different defenders on him. That was one thing Brookdale, or rather Coach Chisak told me about his team. They need to do a better job rebounding on the glass as Carter was on the baseline. Nazir Warren checks into the game. Charles Sapp will go out. Brookdale leads 37-33. Warren nearly threw it away. Cicero left open for 3. Left it short. And a foul here on the floor. This is going to be on Brookdale, and they will get Beon Wilson.
I'll tell you, for once we have seen a game where fouls have not dominated the headlines.
And that's a 5-second call on Cumberland. They could not get the ball inbounds. And Brookdale's able to take possession here. Not a very good way for Cumberland to start this second half as Callaway travel taking an extra step. Play is stopped momentarily for Alfonso Smith to bend down and tie his shoe. Here's Smith being guarded by Wilson. Warren, right elbow jump shot. That's way off the mark. Didn't even hit the rim. Cicero keeps it alive and draws the foul. Foul on Beon Wilson. Now that's his second personal foul. The third on the Jersey Blues. And Cicero at the line again, shooting 64% this year. The 6'3" sophomore from Millville, New Jersey. And has never scored lower than 10 points in a game. He's had double-figure scoring in every single game this year, Brian. His lowest point total on the season was 10 points. His highest has been 37. Definitely an all-around player for the Cumberland County Dukes, and he brings the Dukes to within 2.
Well, you talk about consistency. That's it, scoring double figures in every single game, and we're now late stages of the season, the final 5 games or so.
Hawkins with a runner left it short. Tipped up and in, though, by Carter, and Brookdale back ahead by 4. Cicero going to the rim and is fouled again. And if this is on Beon Wilson, this will be his third. It's either on Wilson or Carter. And they'll call this on Carter instead, so that's his first. Team foul number 4. And Cicero again at the line. It's the first, and to be quite honest with you, Brian, Cicero really was a non-factor in the first half, but we've already seen in these opening 2.5 minutes here in the second that he's trying to take over the game, and Cumberland needs him to do that. They need him to put up a lot of points as he brings the Dukes back within 2.
And he's a tough one to defend. He's left-handed, can get to the rim, shoot it from the outside. He's got the full package offensively.
Carter nearly threw it away. Hawkins into the corner for Callaway. Being guarded by Cicero. Catch and shoot for Carter, and he rattles it in.
So Carter still hasn't been able to find the touch from three-point range, but he has hit a couple from that area of the floor, mid-range game, so he's been able to chip in.
41-37. Brookdale leads by 4. Cicero into the corner for Warren, a 3. Back rim no good. Smith keeps it alive. Back out for Cruz. That one's off the mark as well. And Carter's able to secure it. Carter, catch and shoot again. Off the back rim. Thomas doesn't have the numbers and wisely pulls back out. Thomas throws it up there, tried to tip it in, and Hawkins is able to clear it for the Jersey Blues. Pushing the ball up the floor to Callaway. The floater is good for Dave Callaway. (43-37). Cruz a little stop and pop. Left it short. Hawkins is fouled at midcourt by Cicero. That's the first on Cicero and the third now on Cumberland. And how about Dave Callaway, Brian, a player that we really haven't seen play as frequently as some of the other players this year. He's been in the starting rotation a couple of times this season. He got the start tonight, and he's been playing very good defensively, a very good defender, but also has the ability to drive to the basket and came out with a very nice shuttle on the baseline that last time.
Yeah, and you mentioned that he's been able to find himself now as part of the starting lineup. So many different combinations as a foul there as Carter was gathering in the pass on Thomas. But he's become a key contributor for Brookdale and gives the Jersey Blues another shooter, which is something that, as we know, they could use.
Callaway, the 6-foot sophomore from Neptune, played 11 games as a freshman at Monmouth. His father, Dave, was the coach at Monmouth from 1998 to 2011, took that team to 5 NCAA tournaments. As Ozoji chips in another 2, it's 45-37. Cicero, bucket and the foul for Phil Cicero.
And every time you think Rowan is about to see this one get away, Cicero has had the answer on the attack to the basket. He has done that time and time again.
And they were checking to see who the foul was on. It's called on Carter. Nope, now they're actually going to change it. There was some confusion. The scoreboard originally said it was on Carter. Now they call it instead on Alan Ozoji. That's his third. So Ozoji and Carter, you see them going to the Brookdale bench. Cicero at the line hits the three-point play. And a timeout by Darren Stalling with his team down by 5. It'll be a 30-second timeout for Cumberland County. As you hear Dave Tompkins on the public address, I think that's why Darren Stalling took that timeout. It is now 1,000 career points for Phil Cicero. He came into this game 17 away from that mark, and he has just achieved that. So nothing like pausing for effect there on the side for Cumberland. Darren Stalling there looking at a very talented sophomore in his ranks who now has just achieved a huge milestone in his career.
Well, congratulations to Cicero, and a nice moment for Rowan College to applaud their star player.
All right, so back on the floor, Brookdale by 5. It's Callaway, Kukai, Wilson, Hawkins, and Fitch on the floor. For Cumberland, it's Thomas, Cruz, Smith, Cicero, and Loatman. Hawkins the 3 over Loatman. That one doesn't fall. And Smith with the box out on Beon Wilson there. Cruz a 3. Yes. Max Cruz with the 3, and Cumberland is within a bucket. Kukai along the baseline, laid it in. Nobody came over to fill that gap along the baseline for Cumberland, and Kukai easily lays it in. Not very good 2-3 zone defense, especially with some of the forwards not being able to come over and fill that gap. Thomas, the left-hand layup. Rebound Fitch. Hawkins. I think he got away with a walk. That's what Darren Stalling wanted called on the floor. He didn't get it. Fitch, a mid-range J. Gets the bounce to go, and Brookdale back within 6. Cicero thought about taking a step-back 3. Cruz, who just hit that 3 right at Wilson, gets it to roll in.
Boy, that was quite a move by Cruz, and getting that shot to go over the outstretched arms of Wilson, who, as we know, is a shot-blocking threat, and then gets the roll. Charles
Sapp will come in at the next buzzer for Cumberland. Callaway in the corner to Kukai. Now Fitch. Nice ball moving around to work in a 2-3 zone defense, and Hawkins is able to lay it in along the baseline.
Really nice finish by Hawkins and a good passing play, as you mentioned. Hawkins finishing it off reverse style.
Nearly everybody touching it on that last possession. Cicero now with the ball. Being guarded by Hawkins. Hawkins nearly has a steal, and he does. And a foul here is going to be called on Max Cruz, who bumped into Hawkins at midcourt. Take a look at there on the replay. Clearly a foul there on Cruz. That's his second. And the 5th now on Cumberland. DeAndre Smith with the basketball back on the floor now for Brookdale as Callaway checked out. Shot clock at 18. Wilson, the bounce pass to Fitch, too far underneath the rim. Wilson again. Offensive rebound, Fitch, who threw it away. Cruz was on the baseline.
And that might be a technical foul for slamming the ball, bouncing it up in the air. I don't know if they called it a delay of game instead, but in some cases you could call it technical there.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, Brian, that's the second delay of game that Cumberland has had called on them in this matchup. So I am a little bit surprised that was not called a technical foul. Obviously, Cruz disappointed he was on the baseline, but I think Cumberland may have gotten away and got lucky that was not called. And no, it actually looks like they are going to call technical because Tyler Hawkins is now going to the line.
It might be by having two of the delay of game calls that makes it an automatic technical.
That was going to be my next point. How many delay of game calls do you get before it becomes an automatic technical? So Hawkins had one shot from the line. Brookdale gets the ball back. They lead 52-45. Hawkins tried to draw contact on Sapp. Didn't hit the rim. In transition, Thomas has it rejected by Fitch. And Hawkins, the lob for Wilson.
I'll tell you, that is the highlight of the season, both ends of the floor. The blocked shot on one end and just a perfectly executed. You can't do it any better. Hawkins, the toss, and Wilson, as we've talked about in the past, so often on the receiving end of those alley-oop tries. What a play. Starting with Fitch on the blocked shot, getting back in transition. That was something special.
Fitch was the one that committed the foul, as Phil Cicero's at the line, missed the first. Tyrone Chandler also comes into the game now for the Dukes. Cicero's second attempt is good. So one of the two from the line for Cicero. Brookdale, that was their sixth team foul. They're one away from the bonus. But definitely an electric dunk by Beon Wilson on that last possession. Kukai can't get it to go, and a foul going the other way on Beon Wilson. So now that is the seventh team foul on Brookdale, and this will be a 1-and-1 upcoming for the Dukes. The third, by the way, if you're keeping score at home on Beon Wilson. So I'll be interested to see if he remains in the game or if Coach Chizak will pull him out.
If you're keeping score at home, you are a diehard.
Some people do. And then they call us out if we don't get those fouls called. So anyway, a 1-and-1 is missed there by Cumberland. And again, Brookdale with the lead, 54, I should say, 46. Smith had it poked away. Chandler picks it up, and a foul here on DeAndre Smith trying to get the ball back at midcourt. And this is where things could start to unravel here if you're Brookdale. That is now your eighth team foul. A 1-and-1 again upcoming for Tyrone Chandler. Cumberland is not historically a great foul shooting team, but with the clock stopped, Brian, being down by a certain deficit, that's definitely a bonus for your team if you can get free looks at the rim with the clock stopped. Chandler, though, can't hit the 1-and-1. Sapp keeps it alive, and then I believe dribbled it off his foot, but they're going to say it was last touched by Brookdale. Again, our officials tonight, Dick Hecker, Joe Brasia, and Ed Gorski. 26 to shoot here for the Dukes. Cruz to Chandler. Back to Cruz. Shot clock at 12. It'll stay here. Jeremiah Fleurant will come into the game for Jameer Fitch. Actually, check that. It'll be Tyrese Bryant who will come out of the game. Fitch remains on the floor. It's Fitch, Florent, Hawkins, Smith, and Kukai for Brookdale. Pass in to Smith, and he was on the baseline. Wow. There was definitely some contact downstairs with Hawkins.
They got a foul. It wasn't just being on the baseline. You don't often see that, an offensive foul on the inbounds pass, but Brookdale gets it off the turnover.
So they do call a foul, as you mentioned, Brian, on Smith. That's his fourth. He remains on the floor. Stolen away by Cruz. And nearly a nice block there by Hawkins. That may have actually aided that shot going in. Cruz will be credited with the bucket, and a timeout is taken. It's a full timeout on the floor with 10:54 remaining here in the second half. Brookdale leads 54-48. We'll pause and take a break here on Brookdale TV, live from the Collins Arena tonight. Back here in the Collins Arena, live on Brookdale TV tonight. Brookdale leads 54-48 over the Cumberland County Dukes. Alongside Brian Goudsworth, I am Tim Cattle-Family. We want to thank you for tuning in tonight on Comcast Channel 21, Verizon Fios Channel 46, and streaming live on our YouTube channel at Brookdale TV. It's been a good one. A lot of high-energy basketball in this game. Cumberland trying to rebound, no pun intended.
And look out on that kick ball. If that had a little bit of height to it, somebody could have been in trouble.
Some of the fans in the front row having to jump back just a little bit. Brookdale had called the timeout, just trying to make sure everyone was on the same page. Nursing a 6-point lead. Hawkins nearly got away with another walk. Hawkins inside to Fitch. Nice find, but Fitch left it short. And Sapp grabbed the rebound. And this will be a foul on Demir Fitch. So there was contact that went both ways, but it's Sapp who gets lucky. He does not pick up his fourth. Instead, it's on Fitch, and now that's his second.
Well, after holding down the foul number in the first half, Brookdale is back to their more typical ways, picking up now 9 team fouls here in the second half.
So Charles Sapp, the 6'10 freshman at the line, shooting 67% this year, has 28 blocks on the season. And certainly when you stand at 6'10", that's definitely an advantage that you have. Cumberland is within 4. Fitch spikes it off of the foot of Smith, who can't believe it, but it'll be Brookdale ball with 18 to shoot. And Jelani Carter will sub back into the game for Demir Fitch. So it's Carter, DeAndre Smith, Florent, Hawkins, and Kukai, Chandler, Sapp, Cicero, Alfonso Smith, and Max Cruz on the floor for the Dukes. Smith catching fire, and he got it. That's the second 3 of the night for DeAndre Smith, and Brookdale now leads by 7. Cicero on the attack and is fouled. Feels like every time Brookdale makes a big shot, Brian, Phil Cicero almost kind of senses the momentum shift, takes it upon himself, goes to the rim, and draws contact, and now Brookdale has maxed out with team fouls. That is their 10th.
Yeah, he really does. He gets to the rim, and he's tough to defend, and I think that's the mark of any player who scores 1,000 points in a 2-year run. You have to know going in when you're playing the Dukes, Cicero is going to be the guy you have to key in on defensively, and he's had another stand-up performance.
It was the second foul, by the way, on Tyler Hawkins. And Cicero at the line hits them both. It's a 5-point game. Smith just kind of threw it up there off balance. Numbers here for Cumberland. Chandler forces it up and in. He beat Tyler Hawkins, and Hawkins wisely did not foul. It's a 3-point ball game. As Dave Callaway checks in off of the bench for Adam Kukai. Officials just checking something, make sure everyone's on the same page. And we're starting to see some more pressure in the backcourt on Cumberland. Trying to force Brookdale into a mistake, and Hawkins tried to split 3 defenders and he lost it. Cicero with the momentum, goes right by Dave Callaway and lays it in.
And they had the momentum because it was 5-on-4 with Hawkins late getting back.
And this time at the other end, DeAndre Smith draws the foul. And the question will be, who will this be on for Cumberland? This is on Charles Sapp, and that's his 4th. The 7th team foul now for the Dukes, and DeAndre Smith at the line, the 6-foot freshman from Neptune, will shoot 2. Now, something interesting about DeAndre Smith, we all watched the Super Bowl this past week, and he's a big New England Patriots fan. Now, of course, the Patriots were not in the Super Bowl this year.
For once.
Yeah, well, I will say. I'm sure DeAndre Smith's not going to be necessarily agreeing with me on that, but big New England Patriots fan, and how about the Kansas City Chiefs? A very big win coming from behind to take down San Francisco in Miami.
A really good game, and for a while it didn't look like it was going to be the Chiefs' night. 20-10 halfway through the 4th quarter, and Kansas City able to turn it on as Mahomes has the ability to do, and they get the win.
Mahomes the MVP. First Super Bowl title for the Kansas City Chiefs in over 50 years, so how about that? Smith is fouled. Foul is on Jeremiah Fleurant. That's his 2nd. And Alfonso Smith again at the line. So just to update you, is after a very fast-moving first half, the second half has been a lot slower with a lot of fouls. That's really been the theme here in the second half, a lot of fouls on the floor. But just to update you, Charles Sapp has got 4 fouls for Cumberland. He's on the bench. And Alfonso Smith, he picked up his 4th foul about 3.5 minutes ago. He's still on the floor for the Dukes. Jersey Blues lead by 3. Fleurant with contact, can't get it to go. Tapped out, saved out of bounds by Thomas, but Callaway picks up in the backcourt. Brookdale with some numbers here. Hawkins may have gotten away with a travel.
I'm not sure. That was a little wild. The fake behind the back pass.
Callaway gets knocked down to the court. It's a blocking foul on Dave Callaway.
Hawkins at times can get a little bit fancy on the offensive end, sometimes a little bit too much for his own good, but he is fun to watch nonetheless.
It's the 3rd foul on Callaway. Yeah, it almost looked like Hawkins was trying to pass the ball behind his back. Then he thought better of it, then brought it back up to his chest and threw it up there at the rim. Couldn't get the shot to go.
By the way, there you see Paul Chizek, and if you've noticed, a little bit more of a subdued Coach Chizek for this game. He said he was going to make a concerted effort to yell less, and I think he's met his promise tonight. Got to give him credit.
Coach Chizek, who just recently celebrated a birthday on January 28th, hoping for a win against Cumberland tonight. And Cumberland, Brian, has missed a lot of shots from the line. Cruz able to hit that one, but the Dukes have definitely left a lot on the board. They're within 2.
We've seen free throw shooting be a bugaboo for Brookdale in a lot of games, especially early on this year when they struggled to close out games.
Fleurant with a nice fadeaway jumper. Jeremiah Fleurant, one of those players that's a good shooter if given the ball, and he gives Brookdale a 4-point lead.
And he has been a bright spot of late. Paul Chizek was telling me he's the one player that he likes the focus from Florent, likes where he's at, contributing to this team of late.
Chandler with the bucket and a timeout emphatically called by Darren Stalling. It'll be a full timeout on the floor. His team trails by 2, 61-59. We'll take it with him here on Brookdale TV. Come back to the Collins Arena next. Coach Chizak and the team breaking the huddle. They have a 2-point lead, 61-59 over the Cumberland County Dukes. And you got to hand it to Cumberland, Brian, even though Brookdale has had the momentum really ever since the midway point of the first half. They have continued to fight and are sticking right around. Brookdale has not quite been able to put them out of the game. And at this point, the game could go either way. Right now, Brookdale just clinging to that 2-point lead.
Yeah, it really looks like it's going to go right down to the wire. And just as it did, as you see Florent score on the inside there. But looks like when these two teams meet, they're very much evenly matched, very tightly contested in the standings, and looks like both of the games they play during the regular season going to be close matches.
It's funny that you mentioned the standings. Cumberland is 7th, Brookdale is 8th in Region 19 play. You have to be above 500 overall, both in conference play and your overall record to make the Region 19 tournament. At this point, both teams would make it if the tournament were to start today. But as I said when we first came on the air during our pregame, Brookdale has to keep winning games. They cannot take their foot off of the gas, and they are in much need of a win after losing several in a row on the road. For Cumberland, they're on the road for the rest of the year, so they've got to find a way to get wins on the road. Florent hits the jumper, but a travel is called before that. And, you know, Brian, you mentioned Jeremiah Florent. I've also heard Coach Chizak the last couple of weeks exceptionally talk about him. He's been very impressed by the way that he's played. Remember, he was an outstanding student during the fall semester, had a 4.0 GPA, a straight A student. And as I mentioned a moment ago, is a really good shooter, just has not really been able to get the ball too often this year, but we've seen what he can do if given the opportunity.
Yeah, he's got some range, not a three-point shooter, but can shoot from about 10, 15 feet away, especially along the baseline.
Cruz, a 3. Back iron, no. Jonathon Thomas went down to the court hard, and Smith draws the foul at the other end on Max Cruz. There is Thomas. Got bumped down to the court by Jelani Carter, who came over and just made sure he was okay. So a nice sportsmanship move made by the freshman. And DeAndre Smith back at the line. That's the third foul, by the way, on Max Cruz. The 8th on the Dukes. And Smith makes them both, so 65-61. 6.5 to play. Cicero finds Cruz. Now back to Cicero, 10 to shoot. Brookdale in a 2-3 zone. It leads to a turnover. Carter comes up with it. Hawkins right at Thomas, draws the foul, and he'll go to the line. It's the 9th team foul now on Cumberland, so they're one away from the double bonus. And as you heard public address announcer Dave Tompkins just mentioned, the second foul on Jonathon Thomas. Hawkins at the line, the 6'4 sophomore from Tinton Falls. Foul line shooting has never been his strong suit. He has struggled with that even during his freshman year. He's been trying to get better at it, but this has been a area that the whole team has struggled with this year. One of the two from the line for Hawkins. It's a 5-point lead.
Yeah, I was just going to mention it. Hawkins is not alone in that department. Brookdale, as a team, sub 60% from the foul line. They have just let far too many points from the stripe.
Cicero ran right into Smith, no call, and a rebound corralled by Carter. Wilson, dangerous cross-court pass to Smith. Drives inside and threw it away. Opportunity for Cumberland. Down by 5. Cicero doing it all himself. He gets his own rebound and a foul. Phil Cicero, we expected him to have a major impact on the floor tonight, but he has definitely come alive here in the second half, as that is the second foul on Jelani Carter. Talking to head coach Darren Stalling before the game, I asked him how his season has been going, and he says the team has been playing well. We just are trying to finish out the season on a strong note. They had that game against Passaic on Saturday. They won 69-56. And they've been able to find ways to win games this year. In that game against Passaic on Saturday, Cumberland was actually down by 10 at halftime, and they're able to win by 13 at the end of the day. So a come-from-behind win as Hawkins with the throwdown, and that will be a technical foul as he hung on the rim.
Yeah, you can't do that. It's really an inexcusable mistake. You like the highlight, like the aggressiveness from Hawkins on the dunk, but you don't want it to cost your team as it does there.
Not a very good defensive look there, though, for Cumberland. They left the paint wide open, allowing Hawkins to get to the rim. But as you mentioned, Brian, just a lapse of judgment hanging on the rim. It's an automatic technical, as Cicero does not hit the first shot from the line. And we talked about Brookdale's woes from the charity stripe. Cumberland has left a lot of points on the board in this game. And Cicero was only supposed to shoot one technical foul shot, so officials correct that. You see Darren Stalling looking on the sidelines. And because that was a technical foul charged to Tyler Hawkins, that is now his third overall. So he remains on the floor with 3 fouls. Thomas can't hit the 3. Kept alive by Smith. Chandler, what a move. He draws the foul. And this will be on Carter. That's his third. So Tyrone Chandler will go to the line. He missed the first 7 games this season and had a career-high 12 points just a few games ago against Sussex on January 25th. But he missed the first. Missed the second. Hawkins. Carter left open for a 3. Doesn't fall. Thomas with the layup. Jonathon Thomas has shown the ability in this game, Brian, to get to the rim. He hasn't always finished, but a big layup there for Cumberland.
Yeah, and Brookdale's got to do a better job getting back in transition.
Wilson with the throwdown after the alley-oop pass from Tyler Hawkins. It's back up to a 6-point lead.
I think we ought to start calling this guy Mr. Alley-oop.
I think you would appreciate that nickname, actually, Brian. We've seen Beion Wilson slam a couple down this season. And another 3 from behind the arc. This time Max Cruz able to drain it. Cumberland again pulls to within 3. And a foul here on Thomas. And it appears, Brian, with 3 minutes and 39 seconds left to go, it's really going to come down to who can make their foul shots at this point, because both teams have crossed over the threshold of being in the double bonus a long time ago. Wilson at the line for two. Can't hit the first.
And it's going to be interesting to see how it turns out, because you have two teams that struggle so much in that department. But you're right, in games that are close late, that is the number one factor. Wilson on cue misses both.
And Thomas nearly was fouled there by Carter. He kept his feet in bounds. Chandler on the break, can't finish. And Florent touched it out of bounds, so it'll stay here with the Dukes. Darren Stalling will put Charles Sapp back on the floor with 4 fouls as Tyrone Chandler checks out. It's a weird inbounds play. It'll stay here with Cumberland. 27 to shoot. Sapp trying to get position downstairs on Wilson. Brookdale still in this 2-3 zone. Look at Wilson trying to deny Sapp the basketball inside. Cicero. Thomas, the 3. Rims out. And Hawkins is able to clear it for Brookdale. Brookdale by 3. 3 minutes to go. And a whistle and a timeout called by Coach Chizak. It'll be a full timeout on the floor with 2:53 to play. Brookdale by 3. The conclusion of this game is coming up next on BTV. 2:53 to play here on BTV. Brookdale by 3, 70 to 67. Brookdale trying to get their 13th win of the year, their 11th in conference play, and trying to stop a 2-game slide that they have been on. I mentioned Brookdale is coming off of a 7-game road trek that started the last game that they had here, which was January 15th against Middlesex. Ever since then, they've been on the road as Chandler is called for a foul. See the number on Chandler, that's his first, and because this is a situation where both teams are in the double bonus, it's going to be 2 shots the rest of the way, so Hawkins is at the line again. But as I mentioned, Brookdale coming off of those 7 straight road games. For Cumberland, 9 of their last 11 games have been on the road, and that is how they will close out the year. They have Middlesex on February 8th, then they're at Camden on February 11th. 2 more road games after that, so a tough stretch upcoming for Darren Stalling and his team. 72-67. Cruz to Smith, who again, remember, is on the floor with 4 personal fouls along with Charles Sapp. And a whistle here. This is either going to be on DeAndre Smith or Jelani Carter. I think it's on Smith. And it is. So that's the 3rd on DeAndre Smith. Team fouls at this point don't really matter. And Cruz at the line for 2. First shot is good. Max Cruz, the 6'1 freshman from Clayton, New Jersey, enters this game with 113 assists this season and achieved his season high back in November, 22 points against Atlantic Cape. Cruz all nylon on the second attempt from the line. 72-69. Cumberland has been as close as within 3, but they can't seem to quite get over that threshold as another foul here, and this will be 2 shots for Brookdale.
And again, it just becomes a matter of making free throws. We'll see if Smith is able to. Brookdale's last trip with Wilson came up empty. Eventually, you're going to have to make free throws coming down the stretch of a game to close it out. It can't just keep biting you.
And that is the 4th on Jonathon Thomas. So make it, actually check that, only 2 players for Cumberland on the floor. Charles Sapp just went to the bench. But it's Thomas that has 4 fouls, and Alfonso Smith, who also has 4 personals. They remain on the floor, and if you're Coach Stalling, I don't really know if you have many options at this point. You're down by 4 at the moment. If Smith can hit this foul shot, it's a 5-point lead, and he does. But you don't really have too many options. You've got to play your best players. As Charles Sapp now back on the floor, so that's 3 players on the floor now for Cumberland that are playing with 4 fouls.
Yeah, that's certainly something that bears watching, especially as the game hits its final moments.
Critical possession here for Cumberland. Cruz thought about a 3. Thomas the 3. Yes! Jonathon Thomas. Cumberland needed that. They are within 2, 74-72. Coming down to the wire here in the Collins Arena. Smith is fouled again on his drive to the rim. And with a $1:45 to play, Jonathon Thomas now has fouled out of the game. So this could be the first of many for Cumberland that have run into some foul trouble the last couple of minutes. And you hit the nail on the head, Brian. It really just comes down to who can make their free throws down the stretch.
Yep, and Smith was previously able to make a pair. As you see a substitution there, Loatman coming in for the Dukes, and we'll see if Smith is able to keep it up here from the stripe.
Smith hits the first one, and remember, the last time these 2 teams played was back on December 5th. Brian, I believe you had mentioned that at the beginning of the game. Cumberland won at Cumberland 75-73. So the game was decided by 2 points, and look at where we are. We've really kind of been at that threshold really for the majority of this second half. I mean, Cumberland has been close, but they haven't quite been able to take the lead away from Brookdale. Jersey Blues are back up with a 4-point advantage. Minute 30 to play. Cruz on the drive, right at Smith. Jumper doesn't go. And a big rebound by Carter, boxing out Sapp. Sapp nearly got a foul in the backcourt. That would have been his 5th. Hawkins put it on the deck. And a foul here. And if this is on Sapp, he will have fouled out. And it is. So now the second player for Cumberland that is fouled out of the game. And now the question for Darren Stalling is, who do you put in? You're down 2 already. Looks like he's going to sub in Nazir Warren, as Tyler Hawkins awaits his 2 from the line. Rattles in the first attempt. And we've talked about Tyler Hawkins. Remember, he joined the team mid-season. Averages around 18 points a game and has become the leading scorer, which is impressive because he's only joined the team midway through the year. So that's an impressive stat in itself.
And 2 big free throws there.
Cicero is fouled. And And that is now on DeAndre Smith, and Brookdale in the same position that Cumberland is in. That's the 4th foul on Smith. Cicero able to hit the first. It's going to take more than just foul shots, though, for Cumberland to get back into the game. They're going to need a couple of stops because at this rate, they're not going to be able to get over that hump and regain the lead. Cicero missed the second one, and it goes back to Brookdale. Full court pressure being applied here by Cumberland. Man to man. Hawkins may have gotten away with pushing Tyrone Chandler down to the ground. A minute left to play. And I think if you're Cumberland, Brian, you have to let this play out. You can't really foul here. You're in a tough spot. Smith doesn't get the layup to go. Ozoji the rebound, and he's fouled.
And if I were Brookdale there, I think I would have tried to kill more clock in the final minute, even though Rowan probably was going to foul as quickly as possible anyway. But just try to eat as much time as possible after getting that offensive rebound.
So the 6'8" freshman from Union, New Jersey, Alan Ozoji at the line. Comes off of that 22-point affair against Northampton on Saturday. Makes them both from the line. Been someone that's been battling a foot injury, but smooth that time at the charity stripe. Cruz is fouled. And if that's on Smith, he's gone. And it is. DeAndre Smith, the first for Brookdale to foul out. So that's 3 total players that we've seen foul out here in this second half. And it's been a second half that has been very heavy on the personal fouls. And both teams running out of subs at this point to put on the floor.
But what Brookdale has been able to do here in the last couple of minutes is make their attempts at the free throw line, and thus they have a 7-point lead.
Max Cruz shooting 67% from the line. Too strong on the first attempt. He'll get another. He missed them both. 2 big misses from the foul line. Wilson double teamed. Gets it across midcourt to Ozoji. And Loatman commits the foul. As Callaway now will have 2 shots from the line. So it's almost turned into a free throw shooting practice clinic, so to speak. Who can make the foul shots from the line? And Brookdale, give them credit, Brian. This is a team that has struggled from the line. We've talked about that throughout the season, only shooting 59% overall, but they've made their shots tonight and at the moment are able to keep the advantage just big enough that Cumberland doesn't have an opportunity to get back in the game.
Wow, and remember we talked in the first half about the pace being good. Well, boys, that slowed to a crawl here in the second half at the number of fouls committed. I mean, each team has been at the number 10 mark since about 5 minutes to go.
Cicero is clocked in the head. He got hit by Carter. And that's the 4th on Jelani Carter. So Phil Cicero again at the line. 81-73. Brookdale leads by 8. Coach Chizak, you saw him looking on there. Cicero able to hit the first attempt. Achieved his 1,000th career point earlier in the second half. Makes them both.
Now again, Rowan will look to foul if they don't get a steal as quickly as possible.
And a foul there on Loatman. And the shot clock now is turned off, so we won't have either team having to worry about that for the rest of the game. Hawkins at the line again. And on Loatman, by the way, that's his second. Actually, pardon me, they're going to put the shot clock at 20. So in case Hawkins misses the second one, that will be what the shot clock is. Hawkins hits the first. And you know what, Brian, really, I mean, still 28 seconds to go, a lot of time left at this rate before we close out this one. But I think the storyline really has been that Brookdale made their foul shots. Cumberland left a lot of points on the table, and one of the reasons why they just have never quite been able to get over that deficit as Brookdale calls a timeout.
Right, and you think back to early on in the season. Remember when Brookdale was suffering so many close losses in a row, and the thing that was consistent with those games is they weren't able to close out, and one of the reasons they weren't making their free throws. It really can be the difference maker in close games between winning and losing, and today they're likely to come out on the plus side because they have made their free throws.
And again, you know, Brookdale, again, a team that has struggled with foul shooting. They've been able to knock them down tonight. You have to give them credit because one of the things that we've talked about throughout the year is their struggles from the line, the amount of turnovers that they've committed. Now, to be fair, they've had a lot of turnovers on the floor. It's worked both ways. Both teams have committed quite a bit of turnovers tonight, but they've somehow been able to pull through. And this is the first game in a while that Brookdale has scored over 80 points on their side. So a very good offensive effort tonight. We'll see if they can hold on. Lotman and Chandler ran right into each other. Smith, the desperation three, drains it.
Well, not over yet as Rowan just keeps on doing enough to just make it be interesting enough. And now another timeout on the floor after the made basket.
It'll be a 30-second timeout for Darren Stalling. Actually, make that a full timeout. Stalling wants to talk things over with 19 seconds to go. 83-78. Brookdale in front by 5. Darren Stalling out of the timeout. 19 seconds to go. His team down by 5. And as Brian and I were talking about during the break, not out of this one just yet. Again, still 5 points. A long time to go with the way this game is going, with the amount of fouls that are being committed. Both teams are in the double bonus, so any foul that is committed on either side will be 2 shots at the line. And for Cumberland, Brian, you're really kind of in a tough spot because Brookdale, they're making their free throws. You want to try to get a steal because at this rate, you're just not being able to get enough points to chip away at that lead.
They're doing just enough to keep the pressure on Brookdale, though. Oh, boy, dangerous pass.
And it leads to a turnover. This is what Cumberland needed. Cicero goes to the rim right by Ozoji and lays it in.
That is just inexcusable. You cannot have a turnover trying to do too much. That time is Callaway on the inbounds pass, throwing it beyond the midcourt stripe, turns into a turnover, and Cicero quickly turning it into a bucket for the Dukes.
And another timeout on the floor. Brookdale, now their lead is 3. They have the ball with 12 seconds to play when we come back.
Filmmakers from around the world submit their work to the Garden State Film Festival. Discover the next stars of the silver screen in Asbury Park, New Jersey, March 25th to the 29th, 2020. Submit your film today at gsff.org. Get your tickets today at gsff.org.
.3 to play. Brookdale has got the ball. They lead by 3. But they've got to be able to inbound the basketball. They struggled with this just a moment ago. And it's tapped out of bounds by Lotman. 0.4 of a second tick off of the clock. Callaway gets it in and is fouled. No harm, no foul there by Max Cruz. Just trying to simply foul Dave Callaway.
Yeah, and good to see that that didn't result in a scuffle of any kind, as Cruz recognized the over-aggressive nature of that foul and just kind of gave Callaway a little pat. So nice to see that.
But unfortunately, Cruz is now fouled out of the game. So that is the 3rd player for Cumberland that is fouled out. Callaway at the line for some pretty big foul shots at this point. First one is good. That's now a 4-point lead for the Jersey Blues. And if you're looking at this in terms of how many possessions that is, that's 2 possessions now that Brookdale is in front of, which is going to be tough for Cumberland to claw back in. Callaway missed the second attempt. It's tapped around, and a foul on Cicero as Loatman is injured. He fell down on his face. And is going to get up. Looks like he may have gotten hit in the mouth, possibly a nosebleed or something, but he appears to be all right. Trying to shake off a head injury. And officials will stop play just to make sure that Deschanel Loatman will be able to get off of the court. Andre Green is now checked in for him. That was kind of a weird sequence of events. Callaway missed the second attempt from the line. Ozoji looked like he had the rebound. He lost it. And then it was last touched by Cumberland. And a bounce. So Callaway again at the line. It's the first. 85-80. And makes the second. The lead is 6. Cicero, a last-second 3 doesn't go, and Brookdale will get out with a win here at home. A much-needed victory, 86-80. They stop a 2-game slide, and they're able to even the score with Cumberland, who beat them earlier this season back in December. So a very big win for the Jersey Blues. Unfortunately for Cumberland, they continue to go on the road. They will have 4 more road games on the road to close out their regular season of play. And Brookdale, of course, will await to play RCGC, Rowan College at Gloucester County, here less than 48 hours from now in the Collins Arena on Thursday night. But Brian, just to kind of recap this game a little bit, Brookdale did not start out the game all that well. We talked about that at the end of the first half. They came roaring back. They were able to take the lead at halftime, and then they just did enough to keep that cushion. They didn't blow Cumberland out of the building, but they did just enough, especially down the stretch, to keep about a 5 or 6 point cushion between them and the Dukes.
Yeah, I think you said it right there. The second half, to put it mildly, was something of a slog with all the fouls, but Brookdale did enough, and Cumberland just wasn't really able to do enough after getting off to the good start and getting out to the 11-0 lead. And in the second half, they put the pressure consistently on Brookdale. As you said, Jersey Blues never able to take full control of this game, never able to blow it out of the water. But the big thing, as we talked about throughout the game, down the stretch, they made their free throws when it counted. They get off the schneid in that department, and in the record department, where they snap a mini 2-game losing streak, get back on track here at home, and we'll try to keep it going as they play again here in a couple of days.
Yep, less than 48 hours from now, Brookdale, both the men's and women's basketball teams will be back in action to take on Rowan College at Gloucester County. Those games will start at 5 and 7 p.m. on Thursday night, and Brookdale will definitely have some momentum going into that game. So thank you so much for joining us again tonight. For our entire BTV crew, and of course my broadcast partner Brian Goudsworth, I am Tim Catalfamo. Brookdale comes out victorious tonight over Cumberland County, and they get a very big win here at home. We'll see you on Thursday night when Brookdale takes on Rowan College at Gloucester County. Until then, have a great night from the Collins Arena in Lincroft, New Jersey.